UP and CHED, I move that we recognize the distinguished sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano. So move, Mr. President.
Yes, we'd like to, there's a motion by the Majority Floor Leader, no objections. Motion's approved.
Yes.
Madam Pia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make this brief as I know the other agencies are already here. The chairman, Senator Amy Marcos, is already readying her papers to defend the budget of her other committees. Mr. Chairman, there are a number of colleagues who have asked me to assist in clarifying some concerns that they have with CHED. And so I regret that I cannot proceed right now as I would like to, because to call for them to be on the floor, Your Honor, will actually take more time. So I will try to resolve their concerns with the chairman and whoever else, so that when we call them again, we can discuss it. So on that note, I have to move that the budget of CHED is deferred. That is a motion, Your Honor.
We joined the distinguished sponsors motion, Mr. President.
And
So
may I
move.
make a suggestion to the CHED chairman, together with the sponsors, to reach out to the senators that have concerns, particularly on the issue on the scholarship programs. I think that's something that has to be threshed out. So there being no objection to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, the motion is approved.
I move for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
Mr. President, as we are considering the budget of UPPGH, Mr. President, I move that we recognize the distinguished minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, and to answer his queries, the distinguished lady from Taguig Patero, Senator Pia Cayetano.
Before I recognize the two ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just also recognize the presence of Dr. Gab Legaspi.
Yes, Mr.
Who's
President.
a dear friend of ours here and a very respected member of the medical community.
My mom and sister's doctor,
He's
Mr.
also my
President.
neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, please proceed to the sponsor, to the interpolator, distinguished Minority Floor Leader. Please
We are
proceed.
ready.
Yeah, with the permission of our chairwoman. So we have here the director of the Director General,
Director.
Director of the PGH. Is that position with the term or
Yes.
Mr.
He's on his third 3-year term, Your Honor.
Is there a term limit?
Okay. There's no term limit, Your Honor. The BOR decides.
Every 3 years, okay. So, during the initial stage of the pandemic, March 2020, March, April, May, may mga nababalitaan po tayong mga buntis, namatay. Merong isang footage kasi ako na-encounter na sabi ng security guard, hindi daw tinanggap ng hospital kasi pending clearance from the director of the hospital. Was there an incident involving PGH na ganun po ang nangyari?
Okay. Yes, Mr. President, according to Director Dr. Gap Legaspi, they had an agreement with DOH that they would become the COVID referral hospital. And so to prepare for that, they were closed. They closed, meaning they were not accepting new patients. All kinds of patients. No? Yeah. They were sadly not accepting any patient for a week. And it seems that this covered the period of, basically the last week of December, Your Honor. December. The last week of March. And the understanding there was that there would be other hospitals that would be accepting these referrals, Your Honor.
So the director is aware of this news report na may namatay, natanggihan, buntis.
Nagaling sa inyo? Sa inyo? The director says that there was no reported incident that he's aware of that may natanggihan natanggihan nila ng PGH na eventually namatay. Wala siyang alam na ganun.
Mabuti nga, hindi namatay yung misis ko, tsaka anak ko. So may we know from the PGH, no, bakit nung time na yon ako ay directly in touch with Director Legaspi. Pinaasa niya ako na malilipat si Kat doon mga anak. Tapos biglang hindi na sumasagot sa text ko. Okay, so ano siya, willing siyang mamatay. Ang asawa ko sa daan mga anak.
Okay. Mr. President, at the time, sorry, may I just clarify one more thing? I apologize for the time it took. No, I just want to be able to respond accurately. According to Director Legaspi, it is the OB-GYN, perhaps the OB-GYN of Kat, or the OB-GYN that was you had initial contact with, that made that recommendation or probably gave that assurance. And at that time, the director really had wanted to, but eventually it was determined that they would be closed and would not be able to accept any patient. And according to him, because I recognize the difficulty for His Honor seeing his wife about to give birth and his concern for her, I asked very specifically, were you able to at least respond and assure the senator of the next steps? And he said he was able to respond. And at that time, Your Honor, our minority floor leader even responded and thanked him for the assistance at that time because he was not able to
I think that's a misstatement of facts. Hanggang ngayon, I have not received a response from the doctor from a March 2020 Viber message or text message. No response from the doctor. Ngayon, kung kaya nilang gawin sa senador yan, paano kung hindi senador? I mean, kaya nga may namamatay. May namatay. Ilan siya? 3 yata yung I don't blame it to the... I don't think they all went to the PGH for ano. Ang alam mo lang nangyari, Madam Chairwoman, at the early stage, I was in touch with the doctor. Sabi siya pa nga nag-advise sa akin na pa-check ka sa lungs mo. And then of course, yun na. My wife was about to give birth. Gusto niyang lumipat from this private hospital na nagkaroon ng bruhaha doon and then lilipat sa PGH. They told her pwedeng lumipat. She was waiting for the ambulance of the PGH. The doctors were overruled by the director of the hospital. So since he was previously in touch with me, I was following up the case of my wife. Hanggang ngayon. Ano ng date ngayon? Hindi pa nasagot yung March 2020 text ko po. Hanggang ngayon.
Mr. President, I know Dr. Gap personally, as many of our colleagues here do, and not to in any way set aside the clear, painful experience that our colleague has. No, I lost a child, so I know the fear. Mine was real, and your fear was real, Your Honor. I feel that. And we recognize the very difficult situation our colleague, the Minority Floor Leader, found himself in. We also know from having worked with many doctors and even the OB-GYN team in PGH that they will really try to accommodate their patients. I believe it is very unfortunate that the very difficult decisions had to be made by the what's the complete name? COVID Crisis Committee of PGH, which is composed of a number of people, all doctors. All doctors. It was not the sole decision of Director Legaspi to come up with that policy on the non-admission of patients. It was the COVID Crisis Committee's decision. And I believe, especially since I've also seen his work, that there was no intention to single anyone out. It was a difficult decision that was imposed on every patient of every doctor that had wanted to have their patient avail of the services of PGH. It is a regrettable incident in our history, Your Honor, that I have also read accounts of that many patients were turned away, Your Honor.
Well, buti na lang hindi namatay, pati yung baby. And because of that, you have been showering that baby, Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
with high chair, and other
Yes.
gifts. And because of that baby, naging kumpare ko pong ating chairman ng ating Finance Committee.
And because of that, the Minority Floor Leader is a happier, more gentle person as well.
Pero let's contrast this with the, we are talking about UPPGH, no? We can call that the premier hospital, general hospital in the Philippines. But contrast it to the attitude of Quirino Memorial Hospital. Hindi ko kilala yung hospital director doon, but at the same time, si Dr. Ivy Reside, okay, because I asked for help from DOH, doon nila ako naidala. Express willingness, preparedness to deliver the baby. PGH, matras, takot. Quirino Memorial Hospital, sabi nila, kaya namin yan, Senator. Oh.
Mr. President, thank you for that example, no? Difficult as it is for you to share that with us. I am also trying my best to get to the bottom of this and find a scientific or reasonable explanation for the results, no? What happened. Quirino, among many other hospitals, were not COVID referral hospitals. And therefore, unlike PGH, where they were preparing, Quirino is mandated to accept. PGH and the other COVID referrals had, I guess, for lack of a better term, I will call it a downtime or had a temporary closure, precisely to allow them to prepare. If you recall, Mr. President, kahit ako nalaman ko na yung terms ng mga triage, di ba? Wala namang ganun dati. Tapos yung mga parking lot naging triage where they do some kind of, wala rin tayo masyadong testing, but eventually that's where they would do the testing. And that is the reason for the different response of PGH. I will speak for the Director General. I know that he is saddened, no, by the fact that a very member of our Senate had to experience that. But there was no intention, Your Honor, to single out or to in any way jeopardize the life of your beloved daughter and wife,
Yeah,
Your
but
Honor.
It was the bad thing here, Mr. President, was the initial acceptance of the case, and then the non-response that they are no longer accepting the case. It was just the non-arrival of the ambulance which convinced us that they are no longer accepting that case to the PGH. What kind of professionalism is that? And then the reason being given is the lack of a negative pressure delivery room. Ganon din naman si Quirino Memorial Hospital. Tinanong ko nga si Dr. Iside, wala kayong negative pressure. Wala po, hindi nyo ba kailangan yan? Hindi namin kailangan yan, kaya namin yan. Well, at any rate, hindi natin siyempre pipilitin to do a procedure na ayaw nila. But the point is, you just disappear all of a sudden. No word.
Mr. President, we regret that His Honor did not receive the kind of support which was very important at that time. The director was also very much involved in many other things, and his recollection is there was an exchange with His Honor, but at some point, of course, that exchange was cut off. Again, I'm not privy to all the details, but perhaps there was also an exchange with his OB-GYN or his wife's OB-GYN or the team from the OB-GYN department that might have contributed, because like I said, having met a lot of these doctors, they will really try to accommodate if they can, and I'm pretty sure that was the intention, to accommodate. But maybe they were not privy yet, no, because things were happening very fast. They were not privy yet at the time they made the assurance that PGH would be declared as a COVID response center and not allowed. That's very possible, Your Honor, because things were happening very fast, and we did not have any precedents to rely on to have the doctors even reasonably assume that such a thing would happen. So palagay ko ganun ho ang
He must have
nangyari.
been, I understand. He must have been very busy noong time na yun. But this has happened. Ito yung nangyari. So I just want my colleagues to know, the public to know, na ganyan na nangyayari nga. So sana yung may mga namatay actually. That's why in my pronouncement nga ako doon, after our experience, sinabi ko, take care of our pregnant women those about to give birth. And then nangyari nga yung mga may namatay because precisely na ewan ko.
Immediately after. Mr. President, actually, immediately after PGH was then officially set up as a COVID referral, at then they were the only ones admitting, no, the pregnant women or the women about to give birth. So precisely they were preparing for that, and it is really regrettable, Your Honor, that the timing of the childbirth of your wife was at that time that they were making that transition, Your Honor. It is very regrettable that that happened. But the lessons that you have pointed out are well taken. In fact, even before you brought this up, Dr. Gap and I, and including some of our colleagues, have had numerous opportunities to talk about the lessons learned. And I think it is very important that this experience of yours, that we do not forget this, so that we can make our hospitals, our healthcare system more responsive, as I know it is your intention in bringing this up.
At saka, after, sige, those were the initial days of the pandemic. Siguro this is a new one, a new disease. So they were all fearful about it. So given 3 years of our experience under the pandemic, may I get the professional opinion of the doctor that was the initial fear justified? I mean, should we really have been that fearful of a coronavirus? A variant, a strain? Pag umabot ng Ebola sa atin,
So virulence ang tawag doon? Mr. President, at the time the virus started to spread in the country, it's around the time that there was a lockdown, the virulence of the virus was very high, which means, in my layman's term, yung potency niya sobrang taas. Yung mortality rate ba tawag doon? Mortality rate, Mr. President, of PGH was 25%. So talagang matindi ho talaga noon. And for maybe the young ones or even the old ones who choose to forget, iba talaga yung virulence ng virus nung una at ngayon. Ngayon, it's not really such a big deal anymore pag nasabing, oh, na COVID positive, magpahinga lang, wag na siyang lumapit sa'yo. Pero nung time na yon, imagine 25% ang mortality rate. So mataas talaga.
siguro PGH should review, find out why the mortality rate was that high, because I've been monitoring the mortality rate of COVID since the beginning. Ang maximum niyan, 5 to 8% yan, worldwide.
Sa ospital po, sa loob ng ospital, yung sinasabi niya, I think like in
Oh, for
Italy...
COVID? Not COVID. COVID.
COVID.
Kaya nga,
COVID.
so...
De, pero I think, Your Honor, with all due respect, I think in hospitals like in Italy, where it was at its height, napakataas din. The rate is so much higher than for the average population.
So the deaths would be concentrated in the hospitals. Ganun ang mangyayari.
And take note, Mr. President, PGH, no, again being ano ba tawag sa inyo? Not just tertiary, but yung high level. Ano tawag? Tertiary. Being a tertiary hospital, their patients are severe and critical. Both with COVID and, well, initial stages COVID, basta COVID, no? But eventually, as we learned some lessons, then ang naging focus ng PGH is to only accept critical and, ano yung other word? Critical and severe. Severe and critical, Your Honor. So, mataas talaga
So-
mortality din sa
So
kanila.
positive pa yung 75% ang nag-survive. Parang gano'n. Kasi critical na eh.
Yes,
Critical
yes,
na-
Your Honor.
Okay, siguro ngayon ang death rate ng COVID-19 would be below 1%, if I'm not mistaken, sa ngayon.
Yes, Your Honor.
And
Yes, Your
then
Honor.
meron pa siguro mga, that should be even lower than the officially reported death rate kasi marami mga unaccounted for COVID cases. That's why I'm asking this, Mr. President, is I'm worried for our system if it's a disease like Ebola, where the death rate is around 70 to 80%.
Yes, Your Honor.
The explanation of the director is that they were in transition, hindi naman dahil sa natakot sila sa COVID, no? So, kasi kung Ebola na yan na 70 to 80%, ang problema kung matakot tayo lahat diyan sa Ebola, paano na ngayon yan kung umabot sa atin?
Well, Mr. President, in response to that, again, lessons learned, one of the priority bills that I believe the Senate President said we will tackle right after the budget is the Center for Disease Control Bill, which I will handle. And I also have another bill, which is the Medical Reserve Bill. Priority din ba yun? Anyway, there's also a Medical Reserve Bill to help precisely with the health human resource, Your Honor, as part of the lessons learned.
Well, at any rate, Mr. President, just take care of kami. I mean, buti na survive namin yung insidente na yon. It was not really, Quirino Memorial was Plan B, just in case talagang wala nang magpapanganak. The Chinese, it was a Filipino-Chinese community which helped us. So, she finally gave birth in Chinese General Hospital.
And happily, we
Ganon
have a
din.
beautiful...
There's no negative pressure delivery room. Nagawa rin nila. Just by adjusting ang lakas ng loob. At any rate, Mr. President,
Yes, may I just weigh in on the, you know, I feel sorry. I actually felt for our minority floor leader because we all love our wives and especially our children. So maybe an explanation from the PGH, at least a written explanation, at least, at the very least, kung hindi pa naman sinagot man lang yung text ng ating minority floor leader. A written explanation siguro, Madam Chairperson, Dr. Legaspi, would suffice at least explaining what had happened. Ghosting is not an option in this particular situation because we're all government, members of the government here and public servants. So at least, you know, all life, I was trained by the Red Cross. I've been with the Red Cross for over 24 years now, and all life is sacred for us. No? Whether you're a rebel, whether you're a government official, all life is sacred. Alam ni Senator Sherwin yan kasi member ko yan sa Red Cross. So we should save as much lives as we can. And I believe that he deserves, our minority floor leader deserves an explanation, at least even in written explanation from the PGH, at the very least.
I would appreciate that, Mr. President. Although nabalay-balay ko naman yung sagot na ni Dr. Legaspi through our chairwoman. That would be much appreciated. So at any rate, well, basta yung ating pong mga indigent patients, yung mga gano'n, at tulungan natin. Dami mga unnecessary deaths doon nung start of the pandemic. Unnecessary deaths out of fear. Out of fear. Ang ending, less than 1% death rate. Takot na takot tayo sa disease na yon. Anyway, hindi natin mababalik yung buhay ng mga yon. But, well, I issued a statement noon and I think sabi naman ng DOH sa akin, they made some adjustments pero still, may namatay pa rin of pregnant women who could not deliver in hospitals because they were afraid to accept them. That's the problem. So anyway, sabi nga ng ating na chairperson na lessons learned na ito, I mean, kasi prediction is yung ating mga pandemics are the time in between pandemics are becoming shorter and shorter.
Yes,
Yan ang
yes.
sabi nila eh. So
We have to be prepared.
MERS, SARS, SARS-CoV-2, so ilan na ba yun? Less than 20 years na lang yun eh. Sinasabi natin, ang last one is 1918, 100 years. Pero ito, less than 20 years na lang po. So, let's just be prepared. And then, anyway, yung doctors naman natin, ayun ko, so yung oath yata nila is do no harm. Dinagdagan na ng Senate President natin, save as many lives as possible. So,
Yes, Your Honor.
but thank you for the time you given me, Madam Chairwoman. At least,
course.
well, I also gave Dr. Legaspi a chance to explain what happened.
Tama naman po yun. I'm sure the director is happy to have this opportunity but regrets that the family of the minority floor leader had these difficult moments.
Are we proceeding with UP? Hindi na? Not yet.
No, we are
Not
not.
yet. Not yet.
Not right now.
So that would, I would...
Nandito na sila pero may iba pang mga may concerns, di ba? Hindi lang ito. Oo.
So I would
Later na.
terminate my interpellation on the PGH, hindi naman budget on the PGH matter.
Okay. Okay. So, There are no other questions, Your Honor, for PGH. With that in mind, as previously mentioned to the Majority Floor Leader, we can let Director Legaspi leave. But to repeat, the budget of UP and the budget of CHED is deferred because there are other senators who have concerns. We will do our best to discuss this with both UP and CHED so that at some point tonight we can recall them and we can resolve and hopefully submit their budget, Mr. President. So we move for the deferral as mentioned and for the suspension, if I can just do the job of the Majority Floor Leader.
Majority.
We join the motion of our distinguished sponsor, and let me also put on record my sincerest thanks and gratitude to our minority leader for allowing us to proceed. And with the lateness of the hour, I know, Mr. President, a lot of our colleagues are already preparing for other agencies. So we join the motion of the distinguished sponsor. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration the budget of UP to allow our distinguished sponsor to talk and coordinate also, Mr. President, with some matters with regard to the budget of UP.
Yes, we'd just like to put on record the UP President is here with us
Oh yes,
today.
Mr. President.
Yes, President Concepcion.
President Concepcion is also in the gallery, and again, I move for the previous question, Mr. President.
Before I suspend the budget of UP, it's election season again for the UP President. Has it been 6 years? Has it 5 years? 6 years? It's been 6 years already that you've been elected. Time has gone so fast.
February next year, Mr. President. His
Ang bilis ng
term,
panahon. Ang
President
bilis ng
Concepcion's term will end on February 2023, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that information. So there being no objection to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, motion's approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I move for a minute suspension to allow the Commission on Election officials to proceed to the gallery? Mr.
Session
President.
suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President.